where my name is concerned. Interestingly, just like 3 weeks ago, I was doing an assessment just to get to understand how Kenya is prepared on early warning tools, and we are still very far from getting there. And most critically is that what I got from just doing that assessment is that a lot of the times, even when the Met Agency is issuing warnings on maybe there's going to be a flood on a certain part of the country, it's based on rain and doesn't sometimes include the hydrologic system. It's also very region-based, which means that the village at a very local scale does not even understand the warning itself. And the other interesting thing I got from that is when we tell these communities you have to move upstream to maybe highlands, these are people's lands. This is not free land. So we don't have sufficient mechanisms to evacuate these people from where they're based to these places where we are encouraging them to go. So my presentation will be based on several use cases, and I would want to acknowledge two of the contributors in this room. Professor Jim Nelson, if you can raise your hand. And we also have Calvin Swara in the room, if you can raise your hand. So we have several contributors as listed. I can't list all of them. So what SERVIR is, it's a joint initiative of NASA and USAID. And really our key objective is to work with countries in very specific areas to build climate resilience. And I think that is something that we have seen from the issues raised that is required now more than ever. In terms of our regional focus, we work in almost all the regions in the world. So we have 2 hubs based in Asia, in the Hindu Kush Malaya, that's in Atisimod, and we also have another one at Mekong, in the Mekong River Basin, that is hosted by EDPC. In Africa, we have operations in East Africa currently within a few countries, and we have another hub in West Africa. In the Americas, we have 1 hub in Colombia, another hub coming soon that is going to be based in Costa Rica, and then we have the coordination offices based in DC and Huntsville. So what is it exactly that we try to do as SERVIR? So we are trying to address challenges that can be able to reduce poverty, build resilience of communities, support them where data is required to address specific issues, ensure that we're working with several partners, and we have a whole suite of several partners that we work with, and we operate through the hubs I indicated. So we have collaborations from private sector, USG collaborators, international partners, just to mention. What makes this program unique is we work from a demand-driven approach. So working with the countries to understand the challenge that they're facing, co-develop these challenges with them. So a lot of the insights knowledge is built with several partners locally. We also are a very inclusive program, trying to make sure that we're including women, we're also working with indigenous people to contribute to the knowledge and also build solutions that can be able to last. In terms of the numbers, we have coverage in 45 countries now. We leverage 38 satellite data. So this is like a range of satellite data, both by NASA, by ESA, and other contributors. I can see Planet is here, and we work with Planet data as well. We also work to customize, and we've been able to build 65 services so far. In terms of the thematic areas of focus that is relevant to this meeting, that will be underwater security and also weather climate resilience. Well, in terms of the contributions where we're most effective, we support the anticipatory action mostly, because that is where we build the early warning tools, and to some extent support response, not in terms of the situation itself, but in trying to provide tools that can be able to contribute to the areas affected. This is part of the tools we've been able to develop. So this is a tool that was developed for the Mekong River Basin. And this particular tool provides early warning related to flash floods and integrates this knowledge with the socioeconomic data. So there's a 3D model just to show you how these different events occur. But what you can see from the map below is sort of like an X-ray on what is affected and the extent to which that and who is affected. So we've been able to develop a decision support tool that can be able to show the most vulnerable communities in terms of flash floods. So we also develop bulletins that is provided to the decision makers around these issues, and this is shared to the community, the relevant government institutions to get to understand what is affected, who is affected in the different areas. Again, what we do is work with open source tools in terms of, work with open source tools to build these systems and make sure that we're able to transfer these technologies to people on the ground as well. I think I've talked about this already. When it comes to working with Earth observation tools, there is one challenge that is very prominent in all areas, and that is when working with optical data, which is what most users are able to be comfortable in using. You often faced with the challenges related to clouds. So in trying to resolve this problem, we also try to build capacity around working with radar data. So like you can see from what is below, that is data that is freely available that you can be able to leverage on Sentinel data. We have so far built what we call the hydrofloods tool. So this was particularly to support Cambodia in terms of addressing their flood issues. And this is built off the Google Earth engine. So it integrates different data sets, both optical and radar data. And it's so far been able to support monitoring of extreme events and provide support related to occurrence of hurricanes. This is another separate tool that is built from a researcher from Alaska that is purely relying on SAR data, and this is a regional tool called HydroSAR. So this tool leverages Sentinel-1 data and is able to provide incidences on where floods are likely to occur. Working with several tools there, you can see there is Python, there is cloud solutions, and also possibilities for developing this visual platform where you can be able to see exactly where those incidences are occurring. Something else we've been able to work on is the post-flood events like landslides, which is common to occur in different places. So this is something that we developed particularly for, I think it's Myanmar, if I'm not wrong. It covers a region actually. So this particular tool provides information on landslide susceptibility. So for communities to get to understand who is the most vulnerable to post-flood events. So this tool is available, and these regions are able to know which communities are likely to be affected by the landslides. It actually does nowcast and forecasting as well. Another tool we've been able to develop is what we call the HIWAT. So this is something we developed for Bangladesh and Nepal. This is a tool for extreme weather events. So whether this is the extreme rainfall, extreme temperature, it's able to pick lightning, hailstones as well. And this particular tool has been very critical, particularly to the farming communities and the population in general. They have an app-based tool that you can be able to just load onto your software, onto your phone to know when these extreme weather events are going to occur. So in terms of the dissemination base, we work very closely with the meteorological departments in those two countries, and they're able to share this and downscale this information downstream to the farmers and other local people. Then this is another set of tools that we work with on GeoGlow Stream Forecast Service. Jim Nelson is the expert in that particular area, works very closely in terms of developing this particular tool set. And really what we have done with this particular tool is to be able to forecast when floods are going to occur. And we have 3 specific use cases in Ecuador, in Nepal, and Malawi that I will briefly touch on. But if you need more details, feel free to reach out to Jim and Calvin. So how we're using this tool in Ecuador particularly is to support, the farming community in terms of irrigation. They use the stream flow data to know how much water is available for community to actually rely on this information to, increase their irrigation areas. This is another unique use case in the Hindu Kush Malaya region, where a teacher, after training through the hub, was able to leverage this particular tool for their community to understand different flood risks, and they continue to use this tool to provide a 15-day early warning for the community to know when they're likely to face this hazard. For the use case in Malawi, Calvin spearheaded this particular use case. And this particular use case was leveraging telemetric data as well as the GeoGloss stream flow forecast to provide warning to the communities downstream on when a flood is going to occur. The tool has so far saved the country $40 million. This is at 2022. I'm sure it's gone up by this date. And so far, at that particular time, it was able to show warning for two cyclones. That's the Cyclone Anna and Cyclone Idai. So the communities were warned in advance, and they were able to evacuate the people. So in essence, all these tools, we try to link with the decision makers, provide this information to them early in advance, show them how they can be able to work with these tools, because again, you realize that a lot of these early warning tools require a lot of local knowledge, local data to make them effective. Because if you just work with data, I think there was a case presented for what is shared globally on schools and what you have really existing at national level. And when you go to local scale, the information is even richer. So there's need for collaboration with local people to provide data to enhance these tools and make them more effective. I will stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's so great to see that SERVIR is progressing so fast, and it's actually quite good to see how much funding is saved. Although you have to spend a little bit of funding, in the end you save money. So thank you for sharing that with us. Are there any questions?
Yeah, no, thank you for all the interesting presentations. I mean, my questions are very simple. I mean, what are the mechanisms to engage with SERVIR, I mean, from, let's say, the country, I mean, perspective on one side, or, I mean, for contributing to SERVIRs, like, if we would be engaged, like to be engaged, I mean, to that, other mechanisms, I mean, to do that, how does it work?
All right, that's the easy one. So we have hubs in different places, as I indicated. My role is to support that kind of collaboration, particularly for Africa. So we engage at different levels. You can engage directly with us, that's the Science Coordination Office in the US, or you can engage directly with a hub. So within each and every hub, they're locally led. So for instance, in this region, we previously used to have RCMRD. We are trying to establish a new hub right now. In West Africa, we have ECRISAT, but within ECRISAT, there's like a consortium members. There's like 8 other different institutions where we have like agreements, CSEs there. We have, 8 other partners in that network, and they have collaborators also from the US. They work with Season and also work with the University of Florida. So I guess like the collaborations are on a case-by-case basis on the priority areas of interest.
And I saw actually there's one question, but then I'll get to you.
Thank you very much. My question is about I'm really working with the governments, especially in Africa. I can remember it was May this year, I mean, you saw what happened in Kenya. And I come to realize that, especially our government, they don't have any strategy to deal with the floods in Kenya here. So what's your take on that?
Right now we have challenges with Kenya, but we have the tools, we have all those systems in place. A lot of this require collaboration with the country, because remember, when it comes to early warning, we can only provide you the information, but you have to take that and use it, and use the mechanisms that you have to respond to effect it. So in countries where the systems are effective, then that works out very well. Calvins and I used to be colleagues back in time, and I remember we did a lot of work in terms of providing an early warning for floods for Kenya. The previous incidences, right now there's been some changes in terms of that support for Kenya particularly. Jim Nelson will tell you that if you look at the geograph system, that particular event was already forecasted. So we would have already had that information on this is when it's going to occur. And I think the last two flood events in Kenya have been pre-warned. The challenge is that it's not just the early warning itself, it's also the how do you take this information as a country and actually use it for people or the losses to be lesser.
That's a very good point. We got one more question.
It's not a question, it's a comment. Thank you very much for the presentation. I like the community-based tools where the community is able to get alerts, and I would like to see more in the African continent, and also having similar to what they presented, Continental Watch. It would be good to have all these reaching the community, that we are able to just go in either to our portal or you work with local GSMA where we receive alerts and we are able to check what is happening as an end user or as a community person. That's where we know that there is impact happening and communities truly understand the impact of what is happening. But when we have all these data sets that are not helping Mwananchi or the local person, then it's useless information for me. Thanks.
I agree with you actually on that front. I think some of the tools I presented, we're trying to also make it accessible to the general public, like issues on extreme events. It's not just about that coming, it's also you as a person wanting to know, is tomorrow, will I be able to go to work, and which routes should I alternatively use because this river is going to block the entire road. So we're trying to address those particular issues at different fronts where the community has data at hand, but also the government agencies that need this information to actually take action also have that information at hand. So again, also we provide the same data to Red Cross. Red Cross has established very good networks and mechanisms for supporting response actions. Yeah, so just making the data available.
Thank you very